In this week's Two Wheels Better, Jeff has a special report to capture all the atmosphere of this year's BMF show. And while he's in Peterborough, I'm off to somewhere much warmer. Welcome to Two Wheels Better. Now, as you may have noticed recently, I've been off on my jollies in search of the ultimate biking adventure. So welcome to El Prat. That's not me, that's this place, Barcelona Airport in Spain. Now, I'm travelling very light, as you can see, because the bike I'm going to be riding is 3 hours or so that way in the Andorran mountains. So I can't speak the lingo. It's going to be very, very interesting. Well, it's all going very well. I've actually managed to get a taxi. I know that much Spanish. I'm going to ask this gentleman now what the weather's like in Andorra. This will impress you, this. ¿Hace sol en Andorra ahora?
Es una sorpresa si hace sol en Andorra ahora porque acabamos de pasar una tormenta muy grande y a lo mejor con suerte en Andorra hace sol. Eso no se sabe. Supongo y quiero pensar que sí. Que tengamos suerte y haga sol en Andorra. Empezamos a ver ahora buen tiempo después de esta gran tormenta que hemos salido.
Yeah, it's going to be fine, I think. In just 3 hours I arrived in Andorra, which is a small principality sandwiched between France and Spain and nestled high in the Pyrenees mountain range. It's known as a winter ski resort and a tax-free haven, but in the last 3 years has introduced some more extreme sports. That was an interesting trip, but it's going to get much, much better than that, because if you haven't guessed yet, I'm going trail riding in Andorra. With just enough time to unpack my bags, it was down to Moto Adventures to get kitted out. They supply all the basic protective gear. This gear is actually far from basic. All the best you can get. Full body protection, knee, elbow and everything protection, and a survival blanket, which did concern me just a little.
Okay, I've told all of you guys all the do's and don'ts, okay? Main thing is set your own pace, okay? It's not a motocross track, there are other road users up there and big drop-offs, okay? So just take care, that's the main thing.
Well, that's the briefing, sign the disclaimer and we're off. Well, that's it. There is no turning back. The bikes we were to use were all Honda XR250 and 400s, and with no electric starts, our first task was to actually try and get them going. A bump start in second gear usually does the trick. The first section of the journey takes you through the built-up Andorra de Vella, but once you pass these busy streets and the Spanish border, it's straight up into the mountains. After a night of rain, we were to encounter just about every type of terrain you could imagine. Everything from sharp rocks and rubble to deep water and some of the deepest mud ruts that I have ever seen. Two hours and what, 50k? Look at the state of it. Best drink of the day, that. Without a doubt. Now, Robert, you won't mind me saying you appeared the most nervous this morning, is that right?
And that is exactly right. I mean, I got on that bike this morning, you all rode off, and I thought, what have I got myself into here? I thought, actually, for the first half an hour, I thought, right, let him go off in the distance and I'll double back and go back. I was really, really scared, actually. I mean, some of those corners, some of those mud things, you know, I just thought you're all bloody bonkers.
Yeah, well, we are, and you're with us, so you're just as bad. Robert wasn't the only one finding the pace a little bit tough. I think we'd all agree. This was certainly a little bit harder than we had at first anticipated. There's certainly no room for error on these tricky mountain passes. And here's John, the mechanic at the back, making it all look ridiculously easy. And eventually, it was the bit that I'd waited 70 kilometres and 5 hours for. My dinner. So we've done half a day now, half a day's riding through brilliant countryside, about 70k we've done through some pretty, I thought, pretty hairy bits and pieces, and apparently we're in Spain now, not Andorra. I don't know where the flipping heck we are. See how these guys are going on. Steve, what do you think?
I've really enjoyed it. It's been a bit muddy and a bit slippy in places and a bit wet, but it's been great.
And have you fell off?
Yeah.
Good, so have I. Everyone's fell off. Right, Mark, how are you going on?
Fantastic. It's a challenging experience, I think, to actually learn to ride the bikes properly, but it's just a whole load of fun, though.
Right, have you done much off-roading before?
Absolutely none at all.
Right.
No, mostly just road riding. It's totally different to that, but it's, as I say, it only takes an hour or so, you get well into it.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Love it, brilliant. Right, I presume I'm going to get the same answer here, am I?
Definitely, yeah, like being a kid again.
Is
Smart,
it? Yeah. Is it harder than you thought?
Yeah, it's definitely hard. You just have to forget everything you know about like road riding and just learn again.
It's bloody harder than I thought. I tell you,
the ground's hard, isn't it?
This ground is hard. I know about that. Yeah. Actually, I think dinner's actually ready now. But I'm going to ask these guys, and I want them to guys.
What does that?
Come get in. Well fed, very well watered, only another 70k to go. I can't wait. So there are the beautiful Pyrenees surrounding Andorra. Tomorrow, I believe, we're going right up there, up at the top. I'm not so sure about that. Is it worth it, I ask you? Well, where else in the world can you get a view like that? I'm just a bit concerned about this next section. It's a jump section. I think I might just sit this one out. There'll be more breathtaking views from Andorra next week, and I'll be demonstrating how to fall off your bike in the snow. Now you may be wondering where my mate Wayne has been. Well, when he's not with us, he's being famous on his Sidecar trials outfit. And this is what he and his driver Robin Luscombe get up to on a dirty weekend. So that's Wayne's idea of a dirty weekend. And coming up after the break, all the excitement from this year's BMF show.
Well, this is it. This is the BMF show, the big one. Now, my dear colleague Paul should have been here, but he's decided to go off to Andorra, of all places, trail biking. I asked Wayne, but he came up with some excuse about jet skiing on the Manchester Ship Canal, so I'm here. But what is the BMF show all about? Well, there's only one person who does know what it's all about, and that's Jeff Stone, the press officer, so I'm going to have a word with Jeff. Now, Jeff, tell me, today, just what is it all about? Well, Jeff, we've got absolutely everything going on today. As you can see, there's crowds behind me. We're expecting 60,000 people at the end of today. And they're covering a massive area. It's the size of 150 football pitches. There's 700 exhibitors here. And you've got all this sort of, the feeling of motorcycling. You've got the sound of motorcycles, the smell of leather, some other smells which you're probably not too keen on. But it's a fantastic day. It's full of biking atmosphere. An atmosphere there was. The arena played host to vintage speedway demos, drawing the crowds as the shale flew left, right and centre. Racing it wasn't, but who was to know? A cavalcade of BMF clubs followed, with bikes and riders of all shapes and sizes, waving flags, displaying banners, and one even riding what looked like a flying banana. Ling's motocross display team certainly had the crowd on their toes as they took to the air on their flying machines in a display of aerial combat and flaming heroics, raising the crowd's temperature even further. But if all this was too much for you, there was plenty more outside. But some of it was just too much, and they took a dive. Yes, I think I would feel the same as well. Mind you, looking around from the top of the bungee crane, you begin to get some idea of this massive event. 80,000 people, umpteen thousand bikes and hundreds of traders. Meanwhile, back in the arena, the Moped Enduro, more commonly known as Moped Mayhem, was nearing its dusty end to make way for the Flying Gunners, the Army's crack display team. But this time they had an extra member, Blue Peter presenter Stuart Miles, trying his hand at being a passenger. Stuart, we've just seen you out in there performing your tricks, and it surprised me. I didn't think you were into bikes.
Well, I'm into bikes, but I can't ride one. But I'm a very good passenger, as you saw. And I mean, the thing with what I did is it requires a lot of balance, coordination, and keeping a smile on your face. So, I mean, that aspect of it was fine.
Yeah. So, whose idea was it? I mean, was it yours? Do you think this sounds good? We'll have a crack at this.
Yeah. Well, it was a typical in the tradition of Blue Peter. They sort of saying, you know, how do you fancy this?
Oh yeah.
And you go along and you see the guys do it, and you think, well, I don't know if I can do that or not. But obviously, with their training and you know, gradual progression, you get your confidence up, and you know, it's quite good fun up there on top of that pyramid. Now you get a great view, I tell you.
You seem to be enjoying yourself.
Yeah, it's good.
So we're going to see any more exploits, Blue Peter, with presenters on bikes. You going racing or anything, or?
Well, I suppose I'm trying to think if any of us can actually ride a motorbike, and I don't think we can actually. But maybe there's a chance there for someone to learn. Maybe I should, you know, pick up some tips here today and think about it, because it would certainly get me through the traffic. It would certainly get me to the show on time, that's for sure, in London.
Talking of beating the traffic, you could always try one of these. This is an FJ 1200 engined mini stock legend. Driver, or perhaps in this case its rider, Terry Grant, took to the roof to perform a few drive-by tricks before blowing up a real storm. Biker Russ Swift, in another sort of Mini this time, showed just how easy it is to park between two cars. No thanks, Russ, I'd rather be playing motorball. Famous faces Neil Mackenzie and Steve Hislop mingled with the crowd, signed autographs, and even the old Bill turned up. Eric, it's good to see you here today, out of uniform as well and no bike gear on.
No, I'm afraid not. I mean, obviously a bike day, but because I've got my little 6-month-old with me and my 6-year-old and the wife, we couldn't get it onto the bike, so it's in the car.
But it looks like being a fantastic day, doesn't it?
Well, it already is, isn't it? It's stunning. What a weekend. And today is just fabulous, eh?
This isn't an unusual event for you, is it? You're a regular. You've been coming for years, haven't you?
I've got a picture of me at home, I think, taken in 1972 at Peterborough at the BMF. I mean, before Peterborough was Peterborough, I think.
Yeah, that's right, before all the developments. But what would you say is the essence of this? Because I've always said I'm a bit biased, but it is a unique show, isn't it?
Well, I was saying to someone earlier, it's carnival. I mean, the British aren't very good at carnival. We leave that to the Mediterranean races. But actually, this is a carnival. And when you think that yesterday at Wembley, there was something like 80,000 people and probably 80,000 policemen to monitor them, I haven't seen a bobby here today. I haven't seen one policeman here today. And we're going to have something like the same amount of people.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And I think it says a lot for motorcycling in its current state, doesn't it, as well?
Well, exactly. And the fact that, as I've just mentioned, I had to come by car because I have my wife and 2 little children with me.
Yeah.
But I feel that that's why I should be doing it. It's a family event.
Yeah, so that's excellent. Thanks very much, Eric.
No, thank you.
Running alongside the show is the BMF's member alley, where you can camp for the whole weekend, polish your bike and fire up your Barbie. But rather you than me, I reckon. There's 5,500 people camped up in more tents than you'd see at any camping exhibition. Clubs of all kinds from across the UK and abroad nail their colours to the mast, making it a real home from home and an easy meeting point for weary revellers. But camping and touring go hand in hand, and I caught up with round-the-world biker Ted Simons, about to start yet another trip. Ted, quite an epic journey you had here, and back in 1973 as well.
Yes, it was. Yes, I was already 42. Most people said I was too old to be going around the world, but it just seemed like a really good idea at the time.
I like that phrase. And tell me, were you a dyed-in-the-wool biker anyway, or just fancied going on a long jaunt?
Oh, God, no. I'd never been on a bike in my life. I went through the list of things, you know, everything from an elephant to a scooter, and it just seemed that the motorcycle was a really good idea. I think I'm a genius. I chose the right thing to do it on.
No, that's true. You're not having us on. You really hadn't ridden a bike before. And so what was it about a motorbike? Was it sort of you're able to meet more people in that way, or what?
Well, I knew I was going to be in a lot of really sort of outback places, and I knew it needed to be something that could get me a long way, but I didn't want to be shut off from the world. And I needed it to be maneuverable, and I figured, well, I could always get it into a truck or into a train or something. Actually, all those things turned out to be true. I mean, I had to get it onto ferries, and I crossed Lake Titicaca on a canoe and things like that. So it really was the very best thing to do it on, and it's a wonderful instrument of exploration. The main thing that I learned from that 4-year journey around the world was that the world is nothing like what you think it is. If you'll excuse me, from what you see on television or in newspapers. I used to be a newspaper man, I know. And my main aim is to try to persuade people to go and see for themselves. So I'd like a whole bunch of people to do it at the same time that I'm doing it. And I'd like their messages to be sent up to a website somewhere, and we get a sort of year in the life of the world. And maybe people will really understand that it's a great place out there, and it's not full of robbers and people that want to shoot you. But I never had that problem, and I was hardly ever sick. And all the things that you imagine would happen scarcely ever happened to me. I had a marvellous time. People were so generous. It was fantastic.
Meanwhile, back at the member alley, the day hasn't yet ended. If you fancy snuggling up to a nice little bonfire, you can. On the other hand, you might want to make your way to the marquee for a bit of headbanging. Or if you're even more energetic, you can climb up a pole, can't you, madam? Or is it sir? Oh, it's a sir. Sorry about that. Now this one's definitely a sir, I think, unless my eyes deceive me. Don't know what he's going to be doing in the morning. But crowds enjoy themselves right into the wee small hours. And the next day, we've even got a Cannes festival of our very own. Well, I suppose that's one way of clearing the head before you have your breakfast. But for some, it's just nice to chill out and hang around and perhaps still have a little lie in there under canvas, feeling nice and snug and secure. The wider awake ones, of course, can actually prepare their own breakfast. Those that can cook, that is. But for those who want a truly luxurious weekend, they can always make their way to the cafe. There is a queue, but what's the problem with a queue? The Brits are famous for it. And anyway, it's only a short one. Well, shortish. And the sun's out, so who's moaning? People are happy, they're happy chatting. Look at that chap, he's even given us the thumbs up. And it was all worth the wait at the end of the day anyway. A nice hearty breakfast to set you up for the day. And then over the dying embers of last night's bonfire, you can contemplate on the day ahead and set yourself up for the long jump competition. This isn't very physical, this is on a bike, and this is where you can DIY it. Let's see how this fella gets on. Notice the CE body armour, by the way. Nice and gentle. Whoa! Looks easy, but it's certainly not. Ooh, nosedive there. Now what's this fella going to do? Not too bad, fairly straight. Whee! Oh! Crushed nuts. Let's just see that again in replay. Live the agony. Whoa! Still, I understood he lived to tell the tale. Showing how it should be done, other guys were on the arena trial. Doing some nice trick manoeuvres up staircases and over cable drums. All the normal stuff, but nevertheless impressive. Even the odd donut came in handy. And how about that for running alongside your bike? At the end of the day, it was time to take a final bow and a round of applause for a job well done. Everyone had a fantastic weekend, and hopefully we'll all be back at the BMF show for more fun and games next year.
In next week's Two Wheels Better, there's more trail riding from the Pyrenees high above Andorra. And we've a report from Thunder at the Tower in deepest Lancashire.